Smile.
All right, welcome. Rotor Talk Live, Season 2, Episode 50. How are you doing this evening, Marcus?
Doing very well, Bill. I actually had a great day today. I got out to and got to burn a couple batteries through the little Mavic Mini, and it was ironically in the middle of winter, a blue sky day here in Idaho. So it was a great day to fly, as a friend of mine likes to say.
I like that. And well, I want to welcome our very special guest, Brett. He's no stranger to YouTube, Brett Garamella. Brett, welcome to the show tonight. How are you?
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Bill.
So how cold is it in Vermont right now?
Actually, today it warmed up. It got into the 30s. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I dated a woman in New Hampshire for a while, so I know exactly what it's like up there. So
yeah, bust out your shorts.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, you know, I won't tell you it was 83 degrees and sunny here in Tampa today. I won't say anything about
Yeah, don't rub it in.
Well, you know, tonight, you know, we're real privileged to have Brett on, and we're going to talk a lot about drones tonight with Brett. But one of the things that I wanted to mention, you know, how many times do you have the chance to talk to somebody who has been nominated for an Academy Award? Well, Brett was nominated for an Academy Award.
Qualified, but yeah.
Qualified for an Academy Award by one of his short films called The Champion. So, Brett, could you give us just a little bit of background about yourself, about photography, and then how you ended up getting into drones?
Sure. First of all, thanks for the intro. Great to be here, and thanks for having me on your show. So I guess my route into drones and into filmmaking is not the most traditional, although I don't know if there is a traditional route anymore, because with the internet, it seems like people are going many different ways. But for myself, I'll just start way back when. So kind of my two favorite things are travel and creating visual stories, or creating stories for that matter. So I have a background. So for the past like 10 to 12 years, I've worked as an independent photographer and filmmaker. But before that, I have a degree in journalism. So while doing that, I've always had other jobs. So I've worked as a reporter, an author, I've worked as a teacher, and I've also worked in hotels. So I've had all these different types of experiences on top of just doing filmmaking and photography. And then, so how did I get into filmmaking? So at the time I was doing a lot of writing. My background, like I said, is in journalism. And then I realized, you know, everything's going towards video. People aren't reading as much, and visual stories are the medium for expressing yourself nowadays and for reaching a wider audience. So usually when I do something, I kind of go all in. So I researched, all right, what's the best camera? What's the best lav mic, shotgun mic? And I just immersed myself in that. And then I bought this was about like 10 years ago, I bought a Sony EX1. I bought a real good lav mic, good shotgun mic. And then because I had that camera, I started getting work right away. I had my photography background, so I sort of knew all the visually how to do things, but I sort of, you know, just learned on the job. And I also started working at a production house in New York City. So I worked as a production assistant, and that's where I sort of met some people in the production world and people who were more talented than I was. So that's sort of how I got my learning curve improved very fast. And I'm the type of person who also asks a lot of questions. So maybe a lot of people who go, they approach a new job, they approach it more like as just a job, but I would always approach it as, what can I learn? Almost like an education. So I don't have a traditional filmmaking or photography education, but because I would always like read things, study YouTube videos, the internet, etc., and take workshops, classes, read books, and ask people, that sort of helped me along my way. And so I met a friend at this production house in New York City. We ended up making a short film called The Champion, and that was the first film I ever made, and it ended up doing really well. So I won a couple of film festivals. qualified for an Oscar, and that's sort of how I met people in the film industry from New York City and Los Angeles, and that got me some more work and got to meet more people and improve my skills as well. So that was a natural evolution. Now you may be saying, all right, that sounds great. After you win those film festivals and you have a big film, aren't you then set? Can you start making a lot of money, et cetera? Well, that wasn't the case because I made it was a documentary. So the documentary world, unless you're making a big feature film for like Netflix or something, there actually isn't a ton of money in it, or, you know, so, and I also, my friend and I, we spent all our money just making the film, getting it done. We didn't have a ton of money for distribution and advertising, which was just the way it goes at the time. So that's why I worked all these other jobs as well. And then I thought, after I'm done with this, how can I improve my my production value or my skill overall? So I was still working as a photographer and filmmaker, and I had been working on a project down in Cuba with tobacco farmers. And I just spent some time in Miami. I was there, and I decided to, I just kind of on a whim, I got hired at the DJI store in Miami. And this, at the time, I didn't really know much about drones. I had flown them a couple times, but I didn't really know much. So basically working at the DJI store in Miami was kind of like my drone education. Worked there like 8 to 9 hours a day. And like I said before, when instead of most of my coworkers, I noticed they approached it just like a job, and a lot of them were much smarter than I was, still are today, know more about drones than I do, but they didn't have like the filmmaking and the photography and visual background that I had. So they didn't really know much about that. So I kind of combined those two things. And while I was at work, I would always take like copious notes. I would write things on my phone or whatever when someone come in for a drone repair or something, or would have a question. So I deal with customers all day, people repairing their drones, talking to techs. And then I go home and I would watch YouTube videos or read about this stuff. So it was basically like 2 years, year and a half to 2 years of just basically drones all day, every day. So that's sort of how I got into drones and sort of how I got going. Then after 6 months working there, I bought a Phantom 4 Pro. I passed my Part 107 exam. And then I also started giving lessons at the store because a lot of my coworkers, they didn't really want to do them. I kind of became the go-to guy for drone lessons. So I'd help people set up their drone, their DJI drone. So I got to fly all the DJI drones, pretty much every one except for the Matrice series. So everything from like the Spark all the way up to the Inspire 2. And because I would give so many lessons, I would get to the feel for all the different drones. Basically, it was a pretty great job because I would get to learn. And then if they asked me a question that I couldn't answer, I would ask a colleague or look it up and find that answer. So that's what really helped me a lot with learning drones. And then at that time, I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I can reach more people if I start a YouTube channel. So that's why I started my YouTube channel. I'm like, I'm helping some people at the store, but there's really a limited amount of people you can do with a one-on-one lesson, right? Or you're teaching a small group, maybe 2 or 3 people max. So that's why I started my YouTube channel, to reach more people. And also I started, I like video tutorials because people can go back and they can watch them over and over and learn something they may have forgotten. Whereas I noticed when I would give lessons to people in person, maybe they come in on Monday and then they come in on Friday and have the same question that we went over. So no matter how good my lessons were, people's mind is short term, especially now with all the distractions we have today. So after a week, you only retain like 20 to 30% of what you learned. And so I thought it might be more effective to start a YouTube channel, start doing video tutorials, and also being a part of this community, get to meet more people. And so that's sort of how I got going. And then, so Phantom 4 Pro was my first drone, since everyone is here is interested in drones technology. Then I bought the Mavic 2 Pro and the Zoom when they came out, kind of went all in. It's sort of my MO. So I did that. So I had the Phantom 4 Pro, the both Mavic 2s, the Zoom and the Pro. And after a while, I decided just to get rid of the Zoom. I had that for a few months, maybe 3, 4, or 5 months. And then I just kept the Pro and the Phantom. And then recently, this past summer, I got rid of the Phantom. So now I just have the Mavic 2 Pro, which is right up there, and the Mavic Mini. And that's sort of my drones right now. I'm trying to save money for the Mavic 3, which I think we'll see very soon. So that's a little bit about me. I hope I didn't ramble on too much or
No, that was fantastic.
Or anyone, but I tried to get through it relatively quickly.
No, that's good, because I think it's good to know, how you got started, because, we all see, we all have our stories on how we start our YouTube channels and reasons why. And I think it's always important, because I've seen you and I've seen your videos, and you do a great job out there, but it's nice to have some background to put together, how you got started, why you got started, and, working in a DJI store. I mean, how many people want to end up having that kind of a job,
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously. Marcus, you have any questions for Brett?
Well, it cracked me up when you made the statement of the other people that worked at the DJI store. It was just a job to them. I mean, there's so many of us that are kind of drone fanatics that would just love to go to work in that environment every day. Although I suppose everything can be drudgery after a while. But I'm going to make a little confession, Brett. I just discovered your channel after Bill brought it up that you were going to be a guest here. But I have looked through enough of your tutorials and so forth to know that I'm going to be watching a bunch of them.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Yeah, well, I always felt like my channel was kind of a work in progress. Even when I started, I enjoyed drones. So I have been trying to improve it. Like now I'm really working on my production value, trying to make my videos even a higher, more production value. And one thing I'm trying to work on is just, if you notice more of my recent videos, just trying to make them a little bit shorter. So as I like to call, like all killer, no filler. So just to try to make I'm trying to make my channel a little different from other channels. Whereas I started probably in the beginning, I started with more vlogs and travel vlogs and more about my life and stuff. And I don't know if it's not the right approach, I think, for myself right now. So I'm trying to grow my channel, and I appreciate your interest in saying that.
Well, I loved your collaboration with Ed Ricker too. I'm only about halfway through it, but it's pretty entertaining. Awesome.
Yeah, I've actually done 3 videos with him. I did one a while ago this summer. We did 2 videos. We did one about the flying FPV drones. DJI just came out with the FPV system, and then we also did another video just about this idea I've had, and Bill is great at this, getting guests on his show, and I need to do a better job of this, collaborating with other YouTubers and drone pilots. What I like to do, one idea I've had for my channel, is actually going out there and flying with another drone pilot, and then as we're flying, we're both shooting the same spot, but we're talking about what settings we use and why we shot it in the way we did. So kind of like one location, 2 drone pilots. I don't know the name for it, but I'd like to create a series where I meet up with a different drone pilot, and then we both shoot the same spot, and then we both talk about why we shot the way we did, and we ask each other questions, kind of like Ed and I did.
Right.
And that's one idea I had for my YouTube channel that I'd like to do more of. And then recently, the most recent video Ed and I did with the Mavic Mini. So that was pretty cool.
I gotta tell you something, Brett. I got a chance to meet Ed at the Mavic 2 event in Brooklyn. My wife and I got invited to it. And, the first thing, and I got to say this, okay, a lot of times you don't really know how tall somebody is until you meet them in person. Now, I was just like, okay, there's Ed. I knew Kelly Shores was tall, okay, from Ready Set Drone.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how tall Ed was until I met him in person. I'm like, Ed, how are you? Kind of
Well, I got to tell you what impressed me about Ed. So I met Ed at Spin Up this last summer. Ron Brown and I did, and he was flying his FPV drones. And as you know, Brett,
Yeah, he's an awesome pilot.
he's just, the talent is just off the charts. You
Yeah.
can't believe that somebody can do that with a drone. And at the same time, he's such a humble individual
Very
who
humble.
will explain things to you and talk through all the minutia, every detail of that you want to know. Just an all around good guy.
Exactly. I
Well,
second that definitely.
I told Ed when I met him in New York City, I told him, I said, well, you know what? I lived on your Mavic Pro video, because after I bought my Mavic Pro, I told him, I said, probably 100,000 of those views are from me when I learned to fly it. I mean, you know, it was just, and I told him, and it was interesting because he told me how he got to film that. He said he had a friend of his, after he got the Mavic Pro, he said a friend of his asked him, says, you know, why don't you put together a video on how to fly the Mavic Pro? And,
Yeah.
and that's what and that's how he got started. I said, really? He said, yeah, that's all it was. You know?
Yeah, he was actually, I think he was one of the first YouTubers I actually started watching, even before I think I started working at the DJI store around then. He was one of the, or even before then, I probably added a few views to that video as well. So it was really awesome to meet up with him, because you never know how people are in real life. Like, you see them on their YouTube channel, you're like, all right, you could edit it. He's like this or like that. But Ed's like pretty much the same dude you see on YouTube he is in real life. He's totally cool, awesome, down to earth guy. So
he is. I mean, you know,
yeah.
I probably spent more time talking to him than several of the other drone reviewers that I was able to meet at the event in New York City. That was just, and I'll tell you what, it was seeing the pomp and circumstance that, and that's what I'll call it, what DJI did when they did the event. I mean, they spared no expense for this event. I mean, they rented a place called, it was down in the old naval shipyards in Brooklyn, and it was called the Duggal Greenhouse. But I mean, it was just this vast old warehouse that they converted into this, you know, meeting room or auditorium or whatever. But I mean, it was like, you know, Kelly Shores was there, Ed was there, the guys from Half Chrome Drones were there, Rick Smith from Drone Valley was there, Ken Dono, Original Dobo, Billy Kyle was there. I mean, you know, it was just one of those days where you got to meet everybody.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
And, you know, even more than the event, and I've told this to Marcus and to Ron too, is meeting all the other guys out there, and, you know, really kind of connecting with them. And that was probably the best thing out of that whole experience, was being able to meet them, talk to them, and find out, like you said, like with Ed's just a real down to earth, cool guy, you know?
Yeah, I think most people who fly drones are. I mean, most of the people I've met at the DJI store and around, yeah, I think most of the people are just normal people.
Well, I'm going to throw a curveball your way, okay? Because I know you're a DJI guy, and both Marcus and Ron and we're all DJI guys, but we're in production batch 1 order for Skydio, okay?
Nice. Awesome.
What are your thoughts about Skydio?
Interesting. Yeah. My thing is, it's a great idea. I think looks like they have a great product. My thing is, I just don't know if they're going to be able to compete with like DJI or Autel or Parrot, because it seems like they spent, as I recall, that it's a bunch of MIT guys, right? Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So they have this amazing technology with this drone that's pretty much, it seems like it has great quality, great color. I looked at that individual evaluation of it that they did. Seems like it has great color, et cetera, but the specs look great, and obviously it has the best autonomously flying drone there is. But it seems like they didn't put enough effort into their distribution and to how they were going to compete with someone like Autel or DJI, because they're making these drones in the United States, whereas Autel is an American company, but they're making them in China, which they have a much bigger assembly line. So the delay, the fact that last month you could pre-order it, but you're not going to get it until I believe March. Am I right about that? February, March?
Well, see, what
clarify
happens
that for
is,
me, Bill?
yeah, they did 3 cycles, production batch 1, 2, and 3. Marcus and Ron and I are in production batch 1. And, you know, I agree with you in terms of their order processing and their fulfillment and logistics and things. It's just, it's a mess. I mean, it really is. There's no organization. Or
I don't think
rhyme or
it's
reason to it.
I don't know if it's a mess. I just feel like I feel like they just didn't prepare. Well, maybe you could call it a mess, but they just weren't prepared for it. So they didn't like have a good strategy. Like, I think so much of their strategy was into actually making the drone, and maybe it's just because they're engineers and they're not like businessmen first, but they really needed to think about a marketing strategy. Like, this is one thing I was thinking about the last week was, why didn't they send this drone out to a bunch of YouTubers, specifically drone YouTubers, and also have a good affiliate program like DJI has? One reason DJI has really caught on organically with grassroots, so to speak, is because you can use DJI's affiliate program to promote their products. Whereas I contacted Skydio. I was like, look, it looks like you have an awesome product here. I love to work with you. Could I get a discount on your drone? Or could I, you know, because I'm running on a tight budget like most people are. And can I, do you have an affiliate, or at the very least, do you have an affiliate program that if I end up buying your drone, I could at least try to recoup some of that money? And they didn't have that yet. So I think not having an affiliate program and not giving that drone to a bunch of big drone YouTubers and getting all those, because that's what really spreads. I think a lot of people don't really understand some of these companies. They don't understand the power of YouTube or video marketing or just social media, videos on social media. So, and having a good affiliate program, I feel, and a good marketing, like their advertisements were good, but I feel like it wasn't as good as DJI. So I felt like if they really checked all those boxes, they would be in a position where, if you said, what do I think how Skydio is going to do? Well, yeah, they have an awesome drone. They're going to do well until DJI gets their hands on their drone, and then maybe takes some of that technology and implements it into the Mavic 3, which then, because they have a better business foundation, more people in their affiliate program, more YouTubers using their drone, they're going to get a bigger reach and reach more people and get more sales. And also the fact that they have a huge assembly line, they can get so many of those drones out. So I think Skydio sort of, I like the fact that it's made in the US and there's competition. I think competition is great. I just don't think they really set themselves up to do well in the long term.
So Brett,
Go for it, Marcus.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
thanks,
just my
Bill.
opinion, but I could be wrong about that. But
So when we placed our orders on October 1st, what they said was that you would get an email to finalize your order sometime in November. Well,
okay.
November has passed and we're in December now. We
Yeah.
haven't got those emails yet. So what I think happened is they were completely overwhelmed with orders and don't have the
Yep.
production capacity to deal with that. So I'm sure that's what they're struggling with. I'd be willing to
Makes sense.
bet that there's some angel investors right now trying to figure out how to get that production going. So we'll see. Like you said, it's a drone with a lot of promise, but not enough of us have it in our hands yet to really know, right? And can they live up to all those all the hype, so to speak? And like you said, DJI, they're they're going to move that ship around and they're going to target that thing. And they do have the supply chain that they'll be able to ramp up production really fast. And,
Yeah.
and like you said, the Mavic 3, what is that going to be? We're all excited about that.
Yeah. And like the drone, I feel like the drone, the way the industry is, it doesn't have to be like a perfect drone. Like it could have some flaws in it, but if you don't have the distribution and you don't have people in the industry like yourself or like Bill getting their hands on it and telling people about it, that it's being delayed this long, you're really like shooting yourself in the foot. So, you know, it's like the product is king and distribution is queen. They got the king, but they don't have the queen. So with DJI, they have both. So yeah, that's it seems like that's what's going on with what you've been experiencing.
Right.
Brett,
Yeah.
one of the things that I wanted to say was, and that was a great point, Marcus, is, you know, you brought up, and I talked about this with Marcus and Ron too, is, you know, they sent out Skydio 2 to, you know, mountain bikers, and, you know, athletic people, you know,
Yeah.
to film that. And it's good because, you know, that in a way that's kind of what Skydio is geared for.
Their target market. Yep.
Right. But, you know, if they want to gear it towards most of our viewers, okay, most of our viewers probably don't, I mean, they may ride mountain bikes, they may do skateboards, they may do other things, but, you know, most of them are going to want to have a controller like they came out with, and to be able to control their drone. You know, they're not, you know, autonomous flight is something that's really kind of new to them. So I agree totally with what you said about getting into the hands of some YouTubers. For example, you know, I'll give you probably one of the a couple of the best ones, either iJustine or to Casey Neistat. Okay. And if you get them in their hands, okay, you know, overnight, Casey gets 3 million views on a video. Okay. Something, you know, probably all of us combined will never get on a video. But, you know, that's the power of that. I mean, you know, it gets out there, and DJI is so smart when they do this, because, you know, they put them in the hands of, say, for instance, you know, with the Mavic Mini, I know Rick Smith from Drone Valley, he got one ahead of time. You know, Kelly Shores got one ahead of time. Aldrin Astachio from Flightpath got one ahead of time. You know, and the power of them getting these videos out there, really, I mean, it just helps amp up sales for DJI like nobody's business. And you know, and that's the thing.
You're going to make it like 100 times or 1,000-fold. I mean, it's going to take your sales exponentially. If I was running the company, I would just get them out. I would get them out to as many people as I could, even if I had to delay the shipment, you know, a few weeks with those drones, particular drones. I think it would be worth it just to get that buzz, because DJI is so good at that. And it's unfortunate because I think they really do have a good product. And, you know, it's also how you want to go about doing it. It could be, their approach could be that it could be like twofold. One, do we want to make the Skydio 2 compete with DJI and Autel and outdo these drones? Or do we want to get this drone out there and just get as many people as we can interested in our drone? They might not buy it. So if they gave it to you guys, they gave it to all these Ed Ricker and all those guys you mentioned, Casey Neistat, and all these people who are large YouTubers, if they gave them the drones, then that would be so many millions of views and buzz around Skydio that would give them another, you know, 6-9 months or a year when they came out with their next drone, that then they could really prepare to distribute it and everything, and they could legitimately compete with DJI. But I'm really not sure what exactly they're doing, their approach. Yeah.
Well, you know, you mentioned Autel, and Autel Evo 2 is coming out now. Okay. Now, I did find out, you know, Autel officially does not have a booth at CES this year, but they're going to be in Vegas at that time. Okay. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing a demo out in the desert of the Autel Evo 2 out there. Okay.
Nice.
Now, I talked to Ken Dono recently, and Ken's going to be going to that.
It kind of looks like an orange Mavic.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to kind of talk to you about that because, while, Skydio has been getting a lot of attention, this is something, I just put out a video about it, and Ron and Marcus and I talked about it, and this video kind of took off a little bit. People are real interested because, and for instance, my very first drone was an Autel X-Star Premium. All right. Yep. And one of the things I can tell you about Autel, for me, their hardware is fantastic. Where they lag behind is software. That's where I think they've had some issues. And they did much better with the Evo than I thought they would. Okay. And if the Evo 2 meets the specs that they're talking about, I think it's going to be a killer drone. I think it's really going to put a dent in DJI.
And wasn't there talk about 2 Evo 2s or 2 different, I don't know if it's 2 different camera sensors or lenses or 2 different drones?
They're going to have,
because I saw some of the articles. I wasn't quite clear on that.
There's going to be 3 different cameras. There's going to be a 4K, a 6K, and an 8K camera. Yeah,
what about the 10K?
Yeah. Ron and Marcus and I were like, wow. And it talked about, I think, a 16-mile range on the battery. Just unbelievable amount of sensors on it. 360 obstacle avoidance like the Mavic 2 Pro. Finally, they're catching up to that. And the runtime is like about 35 minutes, close to approaching 40 minutes. It's gonna get noticed. Is
7,200 milliamp battery, Bill.
Yeah,
7,200 milliamp, which gives it that runtime. The distance is amazing, 16 miles. I'm not sure why you'd even need to fly 16 miles, but I guess it's there. And I thought that one of the cameras, Bill, was also had night vision. Wasn't one of them night vision, and the other and it had then a 4K or 6K camera. So it had both cameras mounted at the same time.
Yeah. That was good. Thanks for bringing that up.
You can mount 2 cameras at the same time. Wow.
Yeah. The question that I have is, okay, 360 obstacle avoidance. Hey, we already have that on the Mavic 2, right? I had a lot of fun out messing around with it here.
Except the size only work in the active track and the the quick shots. Yeah.
Well, that's right. And you have that
splitting hairs there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fun to mess around with.
It's still there.
It's there. So I guess my question is, do you have the AI that's able to take advantage of it? So that's the big open question with this Evo 2. Will it have the processing power to take advantage of those sensors? It's an open question at this point.
That's a good point. If they can have that, and one other thing, the fact, I noticed a lot of people coming into the DJI store, and people in general, they talk about the distance. So when you hear a thing like 4 or 5 miles, or you hear this 16 miles, for me, I usually only fly my drone within half a mile, maybe a mile max,
right?
Maybe a mile and a half at most. So to me, that distance really isn't like the distance, but it's actually like the signal strength, especially when you're flying in the city, or you're flying in like a countryside where you have a lot of trees or something that can interfere with your signal. So that 16 miles equates to really good signal strength in places with a lot of interference, Wi-Fi signals, and so forth in cities. I think that's something that a lot of people will like, because if you can fly in an area where you're only getting a mile or half a mile or a mile with your Mavic 2, and you can go further with the Evo with this new signal strength, I think that might be something that a lot of people might start talking about. And then, like you said, the obstacle avoidance, I think at this point you sort of have to have it, right? It's sort of because we've been spoiled with it. So if you take it away from us, especially our Mavic 2 flyers, we're like, oh man, even flying the Mini right now, I like not having any obstacle avoidance for certain shots. So I use the Mini just for specific shots. But if I'm flying normally, I really appreciate having the obstacle avoidance. And for things like active track and other intelligent flight modes, I feel like you need the obstacle avoidance, no?
I absolutely agree with both your statements.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing too that, I know you recently got the Mavic Mini, and I wanted to get your thoughts about what you think about this so far, because it's going to be, and I can tell you this, and this is something I shared, we had a last week's episode was about what drones to buy for Christmas, kind of a thing, and I think that's going to be under a lot of Christmas trees this year.
I think it is. Yeah,
a lot of people are going to get it. What are your thoughts about the Mavic Mini? I know you've had some time to fly it and to use it. What do you think of it?
That's a tough question, because I could go on and on. But my initial thoughts are, I'm going to use it very specifically. Like I said, I think normally I'll use my Mavic 2, and probably I have a different approach than most people. I think the thing people have to be aware of is, well, if I'm talking about it, I'll just tell you about some things I've noticed from it, flying it compared to the Mavic 2. So flying out here, I like to fly early morning, and often there's fog. There's a lake right behind me. So when I fly outside and there's the fog in the lake, with the Mavic 2, if there's a ton of fog, or even if it's snowing, the other day I flew my Mavic 2 in the snow, which I've never done before, and the ESCs and the motors and the propellers were perfectly dry. I think it's just the strength, the size and strength that those propellers move on the Mavic 2. They kind of whisk away the moisture. Whereas in the same conditions, I didn't fly my Mavic Mini in the snow, but I flew it in the fog. I noticed it would get moisture and it'd give me like a caution warning on the Mini. Or even when I was flying it, it was cold and foggy, it would actually get like ice crystals around the motor and on the propellers. So because those propellers are so small, they're like this and they're kind of flimsy. So it's a totally different beast. So you have to be very careful. Then the other thing is, you got to keep a line of sight. So you got to be really careful. I recommend always doing a compass calibration and keeping it within sight. So I think for those shots where you want to get in within a line of sight, and maybe in certain situations where you can't bring a big drone, because it also is very quiet, which I don't know, a lot of people have talked about, but the Mavic Mini is very quiet. I'm actually gonna make a video probably about some situations where I've flown the Mini. I'm not gonna tell them right now, wait till I release that video, but I've flown in certain situations. One in particular that I haven't seen any videos made on YouTube or anywhere yet about using the Mavic Mini. So I think there are certain situations where the Mavic Mini really comes in handy that I haven't seen any other DJI drone have. The one downside, I wish it was a higher bit rate. Some people are like, oh, I wish I had 4K. The 4K doesn't really bother me. 2.7K is plenty, as long as you give me a little better bit rate. So the bit rate is, I believe, 40 megabits per second.
40, right.
Yeah, so I don't know, anything less than like 50 or 60 is kind of, to me, it's a little bit of a bummer. So I wish it was a little higher. I think that, and the fact that the propellers, I guess they had to do it, make it so small. I wish the propellers were bigger, like I said, because I think they are prone to getting moisture and stuff on them. And what was I going to say? If you add the propeller cage or a light or anything else onto it, they market this thing as the 249-gram drone. You don't have to register with the FAA. And I think there's a lot of confusion out there among people who are just getting started with drones, because you're targeting beginners, or like you said, Bill, people who are going to get this drone for Christmas. And they think they don't have to register because that's what they see on, all these blogs and YouTube videos where in fact, if you put the propeller cage or you put a little filter on it or a light, all of a sudden you're over 250 grams.
Well, that's one of the things, Ron and Marcus and I talked is just go ahead and register it. I mean,
Yeah, just register. People make a big deal out of that. And I guess that was one of their selling points, but I don't know why people get hung up on registering their drone. I mean, it takes literally like, 2 minutes max, and it costs you about $5.
Long enough to make a label. If you're just have a hobby license, it's just long enough to make a label. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I want to touch on one thing, Brett, with regard to the Mavic Mini.
Yeah, and I also wanted to get your thoughts. What do you guys think about the Mavic Mini? Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcus.
So the biggest thing for me, the by far the number one thing, is the portability of it. The way I look at it, to be able to travel with this guy, this little bitty package right here, you can throw it in your backpack, you get on an airplane and you're going someplace. That is the biggest advantage that little guy has in my mind. But to your point, Brett, it is a fragile little drone.
It is.
I've had some issues with the gimbal on it and so forth, getting a little bit of dust in there, and then you can get a little bit of dust in the motor, land on anywhere near any dust, and you can hear it grinding in those motors. So you need to be very careful about blowing them out. And it's gonna be fragile. It just is. But the camera is good enough for when you just want that portability, and maybe you're going someplace that the drone isn't the main thing, right? You're going on a vacation or something, but there are situations where you want to get a little aerial video. Perfect.
Or for documentary films where you need to get in a place where you might need to get some footage, you got to get in there and it's kind of like a situation that might be kind of dicey and you have to get there quick and without anybody noticing you, you could use it. I mean, I'm not saying advising that, but there are certain situations where you want to get film,
Or let's face it, Brett, the price tag too. $1,400 for your Mavic Mini as opposed to $1,800 or whatever.
Yeah.
You can put it maybe in a situation you otherwise wouldn't do with your other.
No, DJI is very smart. I mean, I feel like DJI spends so much money on their, their research design, and I have a feeling, I don't know this for a fact, and I worked at the DJI store, but I know much about what's coming out as anyone else. It's not, because the store was owned by a local company. So it's not like I have like insider knowledge or anything. I'm just, DJI's, they're a company, I'm myself, and that's it. But they do seem to always have, I think, many drones in the works. So, Bill asked me, what do I think about the Skydio and how they're going to do, or now the Autel Evo. I think DJI has an answer to whatever comes out in the market. That just working there and just seeing, just spending so much time seeing all the products that they make, it seems like, now competing with GoPro and now doing them with the Osmo Action and the what is it? I can't even think of the name. The Osmo, not the Osmo Action, the other one before that.
The Pocket?
The Pocket.
Osmo Pocket, yes.
Yeah.
So it seems like DJI always has an answer for whatever comes out in the market, which for me, I kind of like, I really like to see some competition. I think it would be healthy for the drone industry and for all of us to see some competition. Anytime you have like a monopoly or one company dominating the market, I don't necessarily see that as the best thing, but they are a good company despite the fact that their dominance. They seem to be a straight up company, and
they really are
going in the right direction. Yeah.
Here's the way I always put it. DJI knows what we want before we even know what we want.
Yeah.
And they put it out there and you go, okay, I want that.
Exactly.
One of the things I wanted to say before we go to talk about another drone is, I'm in the same boat as Marcus. The portability for me was fantastic. We just a couple of weeks ago went up to Ohio to visit.
Exactly.
We became grandparents this year, and You know,
Yeah,
our granddaughter is like number one in our lives right now, and it was so cool to be able to take up my drone. I took the Mavic Mini with us, and my son-in-law wants a drone in the worst way possible. So we got outside, and I ended up taking a selfie of all of us. Okay, there's my wife holding our granddaughter, and my daughter and her husband, and we're all there. And the funny thing about this is, you know, watch that video.
Yeah.
I forgot to put the joysticks in. So I'm just pushing down on the little knobs on there, okay, when I'm flying the Mini,
Nice.
okay, because I didn't have
That
the
works
sticks
too.
in
You
there.
can actually fly like that.
Yeah, I found that out. And my son-in-law goes, "Are these for anything?" And he's holding up the two. I says, "Yeah." So, but no, I agree with Marcus. The portability on this is incredible, and I think it's something that, like I said, it's going to do real well this year, and there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of what I call opportunities for more videos, because I think I don't think there's going to be enough videos on Mavic Minis out there. I really don't right now.
Yeah, and I think one other thing I was thinking too, the Mavic Mini comes to mind too, is the fact that you could fly it indoors. Like you could fly the Tello indoors, or you could probably fly the Spark indoors, but now you got a pretty decent drone for flying indoors with that propeller cage on, because it's not really a guard. It's more like it's a whole cage. So
Yeah,
I was flying that indoors. I was even flying that outside between trees, bouncing off of trees. And yeah, I think using that propeller cage in tight situations, you can't sort of take risks with the other Mavic drones like you could with the Mini.
oh, absolutely. And I've flown it indoors a couple of times,
Yeah.
and I can tell you, because I've flown the Mavic Pro indoors, and I flew the Spark indoors. One of the things, because the downward sensors, we have dark floors, and it doesn't like dark floors. Okay. And the Mavic Pro kind of took off and put a dent in the wall. I kind of heard about that from my wife. So my days were full. I thought my days were over, but she saw that the Mini had the cage around it. And
Yeah.
I've actually, what I did was I started out on my front porch, flew through the house, went out to the backyard, turned around, came back, flew through the house again, and then landed on the front porch. But I went slow. I mean, I didn't even use the cinematic mode to slow it down, but it went slow enough. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, and I know you put a video out on it, is the Mavic 3. Now,
Yep.
That's something, it's a foregone conclusion. I think when is the only question that it's going to come out. What are your thoughts about the Mavic 3?
Well, I was also going to ask you, I'll answer in a second. I was going to ask you guys whether you guys think we'll see a Phantom 5 or an Inspire 3 or a Zenmuse X8, because my personal opinion is I think we will see a Mavic 3 because people love that portable size. I don't think if you put a Phantom 5 and a Mavic 3 out there, I think the Mavic 3 sales will kill the Phantom 5 sales, even if the Phantom 5 has interchangeable lenses, unless it's like a huge sensor, and then maybe. But
one of the things, we had Rick Smith on.
Yep.
And one of the things that he was telling us, he said, he says, I'm not under any NDA, so I can kind of talk freely. And he said, yes, he thinks there's going to be a Phantom 5 out there, which a lot of people rolled their eyeballs when he said that. But he thought that. I think he also said an Inspire 3.
I think we'll see
he
that.
definitely said a Mavic 3. But also, and this is something not a lot of people are talking about, is a Mavic Air 2 will be coming out, a new and improved version of that with new ESCs, a better type of Wi-Fi, enhanced Wi-Fi system, because I know a lot of people complained about the range with the Mavic Air, and better batteries with it as well too. So, I think that's going to be coming rather soon as far as that's concerned. Marcus, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I'm a little skeptical about that Phantom 5. I'm trying to think. Yeah, where does that fit in? I mean, so you're either going to Inspire 3, totally believe that, because
it makes sense, or the X8. If they come out with an X8, maybe
Right.
or whatever, they update the Inspire 2S or whatever they want to call it, you know?
Because as we move down, then the Phantom, or the Mavic 3 makes total sense. That foldable, that portability. Look what you can do with the Mavic 2 right now, and you know, whatever the Mavic 3 will be way better. So then that next step, where I don't see a gap there till you get to the Inspire, but what do I know?
I have an idea totally from left field that I've thought about, that it's been out there. I don't think maybe some people have talked about it a little bit, but what about a drone that comes out, like let's say it's the Mavic 3, that's almost like the old GoPro Karma, where you could take off the camera, the stabilizer, and you have both a drone and kind of like an Osmo Pocket, you know, where you're walking around, the 2-in-1. Do you think DJI would ever do that? Or do you think they wouldn't do that because then they would be killing all their Ronin sales and their Osmo Pocket and sales?
Yeah, who knows? Although, let me throw this out there, Brett. If they were going to do that, wouldn't they have done it by now? Probably. I mean, it's
I don't know, because sometimes I feel like they have the technology, but they're, you know, they do it based on sales. I don't think it's based on
good point.
Could they release it? I think they release it based on, all right, for instance, we have X number of Mavic 2s selling. We're going to keep that going, right? Until this date, we release the Mavic Mini. We want it, the life of the Mavic Mini for its sale is going to be this number of days before we release another drone, whether that be a Phantom 5 or a Mavic 3 or like you said, the Mavic Air 2, whatever that be. So I always thought they could do it, but then they were like, maybe they have the technology for the Osmo Pocket and the Osmo Action. They're like, wait a minute, we want to take the market away from GoPro first before we release this all-in-one drone that you can, kind of like the Karma, which was, I thought was a good idea. They just didn't execute it well. That you have like a Mavic 3 and Osmo Pocket sort of combined. Because I think that would be something that would sell really well. I could be wrong, but it's just an idea I wanted to throw out there into the mix.
Well, like I said, DJI probably knows more about what we want than we do, and what
that's true.
You know,
and they do their market testing, so they obviously, you know, I don't think with DJI it's kind of like there are no accidents. Like Skydio came out. I don't think they did enough of their market research. Like you said, I don't think they knew that it was going to be such a hit, or they were going to get so many pre-orders. They weren't prepared, right?
No
DJI,
question.
I don't think is ever in that situation. I think when they come out, they know what's going on.
Well, see,
that's why the whole thing with the Phantom, there's been all that speculation, like the Phantom 4, they couldn't get the parts and this, and I to be honest, I don't even know if that was, I don't know.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to believe because they're so calculated with all their moves that, you know, it makes it tough to believe.
Well, one of the things that I say a lot, Brett, is I think DJI is a company that has learned their lessons, because if you go back to the original Mavic Pro, when it was released in October 2016, there was a huge delay. A lot of people didn't get theirs till late December or even January.
Yep.
You know, and DJI learned its lesson. So what they did was they used to only have one distribution point, which was out in California. Well, they built a distribution center up in the East Coast in New Jersey. There's one in Atlanta, where whenever I get something, it comes through Atlanta. And then there's one out in the Midwest, I think, out in Chicago. So, you know, that's why, if, for example, you know, and I know Marcus will testify to this too, when I ordered my Mavic 2 on launch day, I got it within a week. I mean, it was like, you know, there was absolutely right away. I got a shipping confirmation and it came out. So, you know, they learned their lesson as far as, you know, supply and distribution is concerned. I think they really want to hone in on it. And they, you know, a good company really learns from their mistakes. And I think that's something that DJI has done here. You know, with Skydio, you know, they're so new and they're such a fledgling company. You know, it's they'll, hopefully they'll get there, because I want to see that competition that you're talking about for
Yep.
DJI, but it's going to take some time. And I think, people need to be patient.
Yeah, and I think they just have to, the companies, whoever, this past year has been a rough year, I think, for DJI in the consumer drone market. They had that internal fraud investigation thing that they were dealing with. They haven't released any drones, mainly because they haven't had any competition. They have one thing people, I don't know, probably you don't mention on too many YouTube videos, is DJI has also really upped their game with their enterprise drones. So they've added, all these new thermal drones. They've added the Storm and some other services that they have in terms of enterprise solutions. So, I know in Rotor Talk, you talk about what's coming out in the future and so forth. They've really diversified. In fact, that they took on GoPro and, the action camera market, the Osmo Pocket, and then they stepped up their enterprise solutions. So I think DJI is, they could be growing in revenue without releasing any consumer drones, which is kind of like disappointing for people like you and I, because we want more more drones. But I think the drone industry also is growing in terms of enterprise solutions. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, in terms of inspections that you can do with drones like the Matrice 200, 210. You do like telephone wire inspections or oil rig, pipeline inspections, things like this, or mapping and other areas. So the drone industry is growing as a whole, but it not necessarily always with filmmaking and just photography too. So
That's a real good point. Marcus, do you have any more questions for Brett?
Yeah, no, we've covered a lot of territory this evening, Bill. I guess the only, I thought of one more question, and that would be, Brett, what are you looking for out of the Mavic 3?
Okay, yes. I think, Bill, so I sort of dodged that question the first time, but what do I want out of the Mavic 3? Well, the biggest thing, I think the biggest complaint has been, I thought DJI made the Phantom 4 Pro almost too good. Like, when it came out, it almost was like, I'm talking about just the video quality. The quality was just so amazing that for that price, I mean, even now a lot of people choose the Phantom 4 Pro over the Mavic 2 Pro. Because I think they talked about the pixel binning and so forth. I like the D-Cine-like mode, which they didn't have on the that look with the D-Cine-like mode. So a lot of people talk about specs, right? We're always like, Autel Evo is I'm answering your question, but in a roundabout way.
Sure.
So a lot of people talk about specs like the Evo as an 8K sensor or a 6K sensor, and people get pumped up, or 48 megapixels. But it isn't always about the sheer numbers. It's actually like the proof is in the pudding. How is it going to look? What's the unique characteristic? So as a filmmaker, as a person who like is really interested in how it looks, you could have two cameras side by side. Maybe it doesn't have as many megapixels or as big a resolution, but it has a particular cinematic look that you like better, right? And I think DJI really nailed it with the Phantom 4 Pro, like right out of the bat. I think you could just use that. Maybe it was because of the size of the sensor, the way they use that sensor. So with the Mavic 2 Pro, I don't feel like that sensor, it might have been the processor or the sensor, something was going on where it was really soft on the edges. It's sharp in the center, but it's just a little too soft in the sides, and even in the low light, it could be improved. Maybe that's from like flying, the Inspire or like Inspire 1 or 2, you get spoiled and you go back to the Mavic, or you fly the Phantom. So they got to improve definitely the processor or the sensor. They got to improve, I think, step up both of those a little bit. I like to see that. In terms of flying, I don't know about you guys, but I always thought the Mavic 2 flew smoother than the Phantom. I always thought,
Totally agree.
yeah, I always thought the Phantom, it was a great drone, but the one downside is it's a little tough to control cinematically for those slow cinematic shots, like tripod mode or whatever. It just didn't quite have the same smoothness as the Mavic 2. I thought the Mavic 2 is a lot easier to fly. So I like them to retain that. What else would I like to see? Yeah, so mainly the image quality in terms of like, another thing was with the quick shots or the intelligent flight modes. Sometimes it would only be at 1080, or it wouldn't be at like the max resolution, or a way that we could do, for instance, hyperlapse. If we could do like the hyperlapse where it's shooting in raw images, where we just get those raw images and we could put them together, or like instead of or like high JPEG that we could edit ourselves rather than just getting that final video, which is kind of compressed. So giving us that little more in the quick shot modes, giving a more professional aspect, which people will probably, DJI is probably going to say, no, you know, if you're a professional, you can do it yourself. You know, you don't need to use those features, but that would be something that would be nice. Other than that, now the camera, you know, 28 millimeters, having that, I do like the fact that they gave us those two options, 28 and around 40 millimeters, which the full FOV and the HQ mode for the Mavic 2 Pro. I do like having those two options. However, the first option, instead of 28, I like the 24 better. So the Phantom 4 Pro is 24 millimeters, whereas the Mavic 2 is the Mavic 2 Pro is 28 millimeters, and then you have the zoom, which is actually 24 millimeters. So it's actually a little wider. Those extra 4 millimeters, and I think it actually does make a difference. Now, some people will say, yeah, you're going to get more distortion or vignetting if you have a wider camera angle. So I like them to work that out, maybe have some vignetting or distortion control. And what else can I say? So if you give me those two things and I don't have to change the lens, that I have those two different focal lengths, I'm pretty happy. And then give me decent like mode.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Other than that, I'm pretty happy.
One of the things, my last question for you tonight, Brett, is this: what about a mechanical shutter?
Yes, and a mechanical shutter. I forgot to mention that. Well, sorry, I'm total brain fart. Yeah, mechanical shutter in 60 frames per second, obviously in 4K. 4K, 60 frames per second, and then a mechanical shutter. Those two things.
Yeah,
yes.
if they can do that on a Mavic 3, I mean, that thing. You think the Mavic 2 sold well? You know, the Mavic 3 will just, I mean, you know, literally, you know, as they say, fly off the shelves. I mean, because, you know, if you have everything that you've mentioned, the 4K, the 60, the 1-inch, and have the mechanical shutter on it, you know.
Well, I also think they're going to improve the obstacle avoidance. I know we talked about that, but I think it's going to be on all sides, not just the two sides, and the left and the right side, and the quick shots and the active track mode. I think we're going to have that. And I think it's going to be something comparable to the AI with the Skydio 2.
I think so too.
Just to take all their sales. So if I had to predict something, I think the AI with the obstacle avoidance is going to be much better than anyone anticipates.
I think
that would make it a big winner.
Yeah, that would just, it would totally demoralize Skydio 2, but that's what DJI is good at doing.
Sure, yeah.
And maybe they could add a different one or two more intelligent flight modes that no one has thought of yet. I'm trying to think of something. Yeah, I'd have to think about that one for a little bit, but
sure.
I could see them adding something like that on onto it. So all those factors, amazing all those things we talked about, plus amazing artificial intelligence that'll follow you. Yeah, I think that people are going to go crazy for it.
I think so too. I really do.
By the way, this is, I don't know if I should say this on air, but I'll probably say this anyway, because people probably want to hear it. The DJI store, if you're down in Miami right now, they do have a refurbished Mavic 2 Pro for $10.99.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which I haven't seen anywhere else. I saw it on eBay, but I haven't seen it on the official DJI store. So maybe we'll see it down the road, but it's in the actual DJI store there. So knowing that, that's just one little insider or little thing that no one else has seen, I think. Knowing that, that's just one more reason. I know I made that video about why we're going to see the Mavic 3, but that's just one more reason why we're going to see the Mavic 3 very soon, I believe. I would be shocked if it doesn't come out by February. I think January or February. If it goes past like April, I would be kind of surprised. That's just, but who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's these things, you know, trying to predict that is like, as Ron would say, like trying to predict the stock market. You know, it's like,
exactly,
you know, you don't know from one day to the next. Brett, I want to thank you for your time. I know everybody's time is always valuable, especially during, you know, I call it school night, work week. Everybody's time is valuable. I want to thank you so much for taking an hour out of your time tonight and spending time with us.
It.
There's going to be a link to Brett's channel and also to his webpage in the description tonight. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, please do so. I mean, not only does he cover drones real well, he covers things like GoPro Hero, you know, the Osmo Action, Osmo Pocket. You know, he looks at other cameras, other types of things. He has tutorials out there. Guys, definitely check him out. He has a great channel.
Can I say one thing before I go, Bill?
You sure can.
All right. First off, I think I talked way too much. So if I talked way too much, I apologize for that, for everyone listening, because I kind of, I don't know. I think I talked too much. But anyhow, I did create something that may be of value to people listening. If you go to my website, which is, if you go to my YouTube channel, which is my name, Brett Garamella, you can see on the right-hand side of the banner, you see it says free drone gear guide. Or if you go to my website, brettgaramella.com/guide, I made this guide. It's over 30 pages. It's a PDF that you can download free. And on it, I provide all my short take on with the specs and accessories for all different drones, from all the way from like the Tello to the Matrice. So, and then I also have accessories and some of my favorite apps on there. So I sort of made that for my viewers, listeners, etc. So that's something someone's interested in. I assume people are here, they're interested in drone gear. I thought that might be of interest to them. So you can get that guide at brettgaramella.com/guide, or just go to my YouTube channel and you can see it in the right-hand side of my banner. So
yeah, I know, Brett, you didn't talk too much because, you know, the whole idea is for Marcus and I not to be talking as much as you were talking tonight, because you know, we learned a lot from you. And I want to encourage people to go on to, you know, to Brett's channel and also to his website and watch that film that he made. I mean, it's pretty special. Brett has some incredible talents, you know, just beyond, you know, creating YouTube videos is kind of a second thing for him. And he does a fantastic job at that. But I mean, he really excels as a filmmaker. So you guys definitely need to check that out. And Brett, we'd probably like to have you back sometime again, maybe talk about the Mavic 3 when it comes out.
Yeah, I'd love to. That would be amazing.
And like I said, you know, if you ever catch your way down near Tampa, I know you get to Miami, but if you ever come to Central Florida, you know, feel free to, give me a shout, look me up. We'll definitely get together, maybe fly some drones and have a good time.
Okay, awesome. I'd love to do that.
Marcus, any words of wisdom before
not much. It was a great day to fly in Idaho today. I can tell you that. Had a good time. So again, thank you, Brett. I think we all learned a lot here tonight, and
Thank you. I appreciate that.
you certainly did not talk too much.
No,
Okay.
absolutely.
By the way, I drove through Idaho. I've only driven through it once, and the only time I've ever seen a bald eagle, I want to say pair of bald eagles in a tree along the Snake River. And this was before I had a drone, but anyhow, Idaho is a beautiful place to fly your drone or just to take photos or anything. So
well, Brett, I'm going to put a plug in for Marcus's channel. You need to watch some of his videos.
Yeah, I do need to watch more of them.
He takes some incredible videos, the Snake River too. I mean, yeah, just absolutely fantastic. One public service announcement for the channel before we sign off. Next week, yes, we're going to have the famous giveaway, Christmas giveaway will be next week. So guys, make sure you tune in for that. You get to see my beautiful wife on the channel with me for 15 minutes. Okay, we're going to do these live streams. So it's going to be pared down this year. We're not doing 12 days because I don't have 12 days worth of stuff to give away this year like I did last year. But it's going to be pared down, and I'm going to come out with an announcement. So be looking for that this week. We're going to have a lot of fun. I got some music I can play this year and not get a copyright strike. So I think we'll be cool with that. Like I said, we like to have fun around here, and that's one of the goals of this. Brett, thank you again so much for being on tonight. Marcus, as always, it's a pleasure. And to Ron Brown, hope you're feeling better, sir. And thank you for everyone showing up tonight. We appreciate the great chat that went on tonight. That was great. As always, everybody, remember, it's a great day to fly. Take care, everybody.